Hey guys, today we're going to dig into the Yamaha Big Bear 400 top end. The oil pump went bad on this quad. We changed it out in the previous video. That caused a lot of damage, and I want to show everyone how to change out the cam on these without taking the motor out. So we picked up a kit here using my 57 as a tool bench for a little bit. Got a lot of videos on this on the channel as well if you want to check those out up here probably. So I picked up this cam kit. Comes with this little Chinese cam from Caltrick. They make a lot of stuff. Comes with the cam sprocket, the timing chain, and your bearing. I got that all for $50. You can buy the whole entire top end cylinder and head for this quad for under $500. Piston rings, everything. First thing you're going to do here is take your number 5 Allen wrench. I got a Torx T30 by 4. I use this to get these out a little quicker. Got the port plug out. You also want to go ahead and pull your spark plug, which is an 11/16 on this, typically, because you're going to want to turn this over so you can find top dead center. It's going to be a pain to try to do with the spark plug in. These motors have a lot of compression. Okay, we found top dead center. We have the T right there lined up with the little groove in the case. This is a little advanced. The line on the cam sprocket, that is normal. It's not quite perfect with the one up top, but close enough. The piston is at the top of the cylinder. And the last thing you need to check for, you hear that click. These are both bouncing up and down, your rocker arms, which means we are at top dead center. Now it's time to pull the bolt out of our sprocket. So I was trying to get this off, but we should probably get the tensioner out first. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. It's a 12 millimeter, and then take your 8s out after you pull the tensioner out. So here is our timing chain tensioner, and you can see it's pretty far out. The way that you can tell if these are bad is you push the that pin underneath in, then you push that all the way in, and you can see how that is completely covered in oil. This is completely extended. There is no more tension that I can give this chain. So my timing chain is wore out. While I'm working on all that, I cut myself an oil can for my dirt bike. Threw the cam in there, and I'm gonna put some STP on that. Let that soak in. It was really on there. My little Harbor Freight 1/2-inch impact would not get that free, so I had to bring out the real one, the real Harbor Freight one, and I did get it. It did turn it over a bunch, so gotta get top dead center again, but no problem, got it. So get that done. All right, I don't even think we fell off on the bottom, so did a pretty decent job there. So now we got a couple more things to do. You got a couple what looks to be 9 millimeters. So now that you have the clip out, you want to delicately put the bolt back in and push off that bolt onto the casing of the motor. Be careful, you don't want to crack that. Alright, we've progressed to the I'm not asking category of the job. Wow. Should have went with that to begin with. See how bad she is. Take this thing over here. So, there is pretty much no exhaust lobe left. I believe that is the exhaust lobe. So that would explain high heat as well. And you can see the discoloration on the bearing. It's blue, which means it's seen a lot of heat. But look at the lobe on that. First thing we're going to do is get all this nasty sludge out from the old cam and try to get that bearing out in the back as well, the needle bearing. Cannot get the needle bearing out that's in there. It still rotates and it seems like it's all right. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that up with STP, get it real lubed up, and then hope for the best. I got all the sludge out, used brake clean and a rag and well, a bunch of rags, and got all that sludge, so should be relatively safe to run. So your new cam isn't going to come assembled like your old one comes out with the bearing and all. So, like you saw, I started to soak that. You're going to have your bearing, which I also dunked in the STP, and this bearing is going to go onto that shaft. I like to see if they're directional. So this bearing here has the seal letters out. See if we got letters on this. We do. So I'm going to go letters out. I think that's seated. Yep. You can see there's no gap anymore. Pretty simple from here. Just gotta slide this thing in. Okay, so my first time doing this, made an oopsie. When you go to put this in, you gotta rotate it a little bit so you don't hit your rocker arms. You start in at a specific rotation, and then you gotta go again. So you go through, and then it slides right in. You want is that to be lined up with that notch directly, and you still want that T to be there on the flywheel. So I'm gonna put the sprocket bolt in, put all that back together, put the tensioner on, and see how it feels. This is just a plow quad. This is when you have to make one of those judgment calls. Do you think you need it for what you're doing? You guys already know because you would have known by the title. So I'm about to find out. You're already gonna know if I'm gonna be in misery. So nope, no good. So you guys are getting the full treatment here. Gotta pop off this for the pull start. Gotta get this shifter off, and yeah, we're gonna have to take this side cover off. So in order to do that, I am going to jack the quad up again so I don't lose all my oil. Did that in my other video on this. I just put oil into this. I don't want to waste it all because I'm gonna have to do an oil change once I get it running again anyway, so I'll just be burning through all the oil. So I'm going to get this up at like a 45-degree angle, make it a little easier on myself. And then we're going to get this timing chain in. got the quad up on some ramps. Hopefully that's enough to keep the oil onto the other side. We'll find out. Okay, so got the side cover off, and I was messing around with the flywheel for a while, trying to get that off, and I ended up taking one of the Allen key bolts out and putting a gear pulley into one of the bolt holes on that. Wouldn't work, and then I took my crowbar, put it on the upper side of it, wedged it into here, gave it a little shimmy and hit it with the mallet, and it popped right off. I mean, got real lucky on that. Usually it does not come off that easily. So there we go. That, get a little bit of light in there. There is our crank sprocket. Looks really nice, actually. So we're going to go ahead and get this timing chain out of here. So we're going to take that cam bolt back out, and we'll feed the new one up and in. So now we'll take our new timing chain out of the forbidden honey. Got my wire. You're going to want to feed it down to the case, obviously. Pick up your nice lubricated chain. Give us a little hook in here. Bend that up so it doesn't get caught on anything. Go obviously over your crankshaft. So now that the T on the flywheel is obsolete because there is no flywheel, you're going to have to, where's my light? There it is. You now have a dot, okay? And that dot right there needs to be lined up with that pointed arrow. So they're relatively there. And that notch on the camshaft needs to be up with that. So we're good at the bottom. We have to get ourselves the cam sprocket back onto the top. And I'm going to call that good. So once again, dot and arrow, indicator, notch, and camshaft, what do you want to call that? Bubble. So that should be good to go. Also, when you do this, you should go and inspect your guides, which are right here on both sides of plastic. Sometimes they'll be beat up, especially if you have a bad chain. Okay, very important. There's a little key there on your crankshaft. That goes into that slot. It'll probably fall out and you'll lose it somewhere in your gravel driveway while you're smoking a cigarette. Make sure you put that back or else no run. So make sure that's in there and you can slide this back on. So once you get your key lined up for your flywheel and you get that on, I beat it on with the mallet to get it started. Then you're going to have to press it on. So get yourself a wrench and your spindle. Put your nut in and then run that in with your impact gun. Once you get that pressed on, you're going to go ahead and scrape your old gasket off so you can put your red RTV, because you were too cheap to buy $6 gasket for the quad. Now that everything is ready to go, you cleaned everything off real good, right? Yeah, horrible. We're gonna take the RTV and put a thin layer on both sides and then plop it together. All right, so here's probably the worst part about the job, getting this back on without casualty. So, I'll line up a pin. Really only have 1 or 2 shots, or however many it takes me to get this in. Once you got everything back together, throw on your pull starter if you have one, and if not, you just use your bolt. But give it a few revolutions. Make sure you put everything together correctly. No piston valve contact. Hey guys, I'm back working on the Big Bear. Today we are going to do the valve adjustment. This will probably be a separate video as well as in the regular video of doing this, just to make it easier for people that just need that. So your intake valve is going to be 0.06 to 0.10 millimeter, and your exhaust valve is going to be 0.16 to 0.20 millimeter, and there are your inch. In order to do this job, you're going to need yourself some feeler gauges, a 10 millimeter wrench, and a flathead screwdriver. You're going to want to find the wrench, I guess. First thing you got to do is, once again, get the top dead center. So, T on the flywheel, like before, lined up with the notch in the side case. You can't really see the one on the cam anymore because it's covered up, but you're going to put a screwdriver into the cylinder, make sure the piston's at the top, and your rockers should be floating again. You're going to go ahead and pick out tolerance in between the recommended. So remember, we're at 0.06 to 0.10, so I'm going to go ahead and use a 0.08. And what you're going to do is you're going to slide it right into here, like that. And you can see we got, a mile. So, set that to the side. I'm going to grab your 10 millimeter wrench and break the nut loose. And for some reason, that isn't a flathead. So that's really weird. It's a little square. I'll have to find something for that. Okay, so yeah, usually you use a Phillips or a flathead to adjust that valve, but I got here a 5 millimeter socket, and that does it. It's real weird, but that's what this is. So go ahead and loosen that nut, and then we're going to slide our feeler gauge in between, and we're going to tighten get the wrench in there as well. You're going to tighten that top nut down, not the one that the wrench is on, just the top one, until your feeler gauge has some drag. Okay? Now, you don't want it to be so much to where you can't slide the feeler gauge in and out, but you want to be able to feel some resistance. You might have to do it a few times to get that right. That's perfect. So remember, for our exhaust valve, we are at a tolerance of 0.16 to 0.20 mil. So I'm going to go ahead in the middle. We're going to be at 0.18. Same process over here. Go ahead and crack this nut loose. And when you make it looser, you run the, less probability of, whenever you go to screw it down, that it will spin the nut. Alright, so now that the valves are adjusted, the only thing left to do is to put that cover back on, the rest of the covers, and get the gas tank back on and see if she fires. Let's see what happens. Thanks for joining us, and catch you next week for another video.